Hey everyone, so some of you have asked for a tour of the hen house, so I thought I would do that for you today. So let me see if I can flip the camera around. Okay, so the hen house has a storage area, a closed room, as well as a run. So let's go on inside. And as you can see, when you go in this door, I've got the storage area. So here, now you can see better without the glare from the sun. So the storage area has a couple of shelves. That's where I keep all my extra, treats and waters and feeders and all that kind of stuff. Everything that I use out here on a daily basis. And take note of this orange construction fencing, because when we go out in the run, I'll explain to you why I have that. And then on this side of the door, you can see I've got two control boxes. One controls the lights, so I can have lights come on a timer, and the other one controls the two fans. I've got a fan in here and a fan out in the run. So this is the grow out pen. It doubles as a broody breaker. So it's got a wall, it's got a door here that just latches on. You see the latch right here. There's one on the bottom on either side and another one on the top on either side. So I can open it up and make one big huge pen, or I can put it the way it is now, half and half, because there's a broody breaker that I can use. So a broody breaker is when a hen goes broody, she will stay broody for 3 weeks. And if you're not going to give her eggs to hatch or babies to care for, it's not so healthy for her to do that, because they don't eat as much and they don't drink as much, and because they think they're sitting on a clutch. So the way you break it, being broody, is actually almost like having a fever. Their belly gets really warm because eggs have to be a certain temperature to form into baby chicks. So the best way to break it is to put them on a wire floor, which is why this piece of wood here is halfway up with a wire floor, because you need to dissipate that heat and not allow it to collect. And the quicker you can dissipate the heat, then the quicker they'll come out of being broody. So I do have two hens that I really should throw in there, but I just haven't had time to put feed and water and stuff together. So you'll see when I show you the egg box, they're in the egg box right now being broody as I'll get out. So they might even yell at us when I go in there, but that's okay. You can see the little bums right there. So this is my egg collection box. And it's a roll away, so they roll to the back. We built everything inside here ourselves. So we didn't do too bad, actually, for never having done this before. I paid someone to build the walls and the roof, but we built out the inside. And our only mistake is this lopsided door. We understand what the problem is. We just weren't in the mood to take everything apart to fix it, so we left it. The only reason it's lopsided is, for whatever reason, this 4x4 right here isn't plumb. We don't understand how it got that way, but whatever. It's sitting in sand, so who knows. So the egg box, we just have these egg mats that we nailed in. And we put it on the back wall here and on the side wall, like you can see, so that the eggs won't break as they roll back and hit the catch at the back. And you can see that they're just tied on with cable ties. Nothing fancy. Just popped a hole right through and just tied it on that way. That way, if we ever need to replace them, take them out, I can just cut the cable ties, cut a new piece, and put it right back in. So I don't have dividers in these egg boxes. Let's go on the other side and I'll show you. I did that because the hens were fighting too much. Trying to keep trying to share the same box. So I took care of that by not having dividers. So as you can see, it is just one super large box. It's the size of 4 egg boxes, just no divider walls. So, and because of the height of the top box, we gave them a ladder just to be able to get up there. In here, this is where they sleep. These are the roost bars. So they've got a big old ladder to get to the top, and they've got 4 bars. This is enough room to hold about 30 hens. And they've got their little door to get outside, because unless it's a nice day, I don't keep that big door open. So, and the reason that I've got double doors on this end and double doors, big huge double doors on this end, is because in the case that we need to replace the sand or add more sand out here in the run, I didn't want to have to manually wheelbarrow little bits in at a time. So these doors are big enough for our tractor to come through the hen house. And this roost bar is on hinges. You can see the hinges in the back. And these 2 front legs are on hinges. So this whole roost bar, we pulled the ladder off, the whole thing folds up onto the wall and is out of the way. And that way we can just run the tractor straight through. And I don't have to worry about the hens getting out when we do that, because these hooks here, the light's not the best, these hooks here, and there's another set at the bottom that are kind of buried in the sand right now. That is what that orange landscape fencing is for. I can hook it up all the way across these middle beams and around the corner and back to that wall, so that we can put all the hens on the other side if we need to open the doors and let the tractor come in if it's open to the outside, because we have coyotes here, so I don't really recommend letting them free range. But so down here we just have like jungle gym stuff to keep them busy. Here just some logs that we found on the property. We made this balance beam type thing, and we got an old tire. Actually, it was free. If you go to a tire store that takes old tires and they're no good and they're just going to throw them out anyway, they'll give them to you. So we put an old tire in here, and it's got some finer sand, some wood ash, things that are good for them to dust bathe in. So that's their dust bathing spot. You can see I've got a watering system hanging up there. I've got another one on the inside. So there's one watering system and one feeder inside where the roost bars are. So that's just if it's bad weather for whatever reason, they can always eat in there. This jungle gym we made, and it's just got a swing on it and different levels for them to jump around. This was all wood scrap from building out the inside where the roost bars and the grow out pen are. So this was just scraps that we had left over. This egg basket is where I put their fresh vegetables. They get fresh vegetables about 3 times a week, so we just stick them in the basket. They pull out what they want, and a lot of times they throw it all over the floor, but that's okay. They'll eat it up. I'm not so worried about that, because the hens on the lower end of the pecking order will pick up the scraps and feed and stuff that gets thrown out. Then these clay trays here, in the summer, when I give them ice blocks, frozen watermelons, stuff like that, I put it on top of the 2 pavers inside the clay tray. And that's because the ceramic and the rock hold the cold better. So that way it'll stay cold longer for them, especially when I was working and I was putting it out early in the morning before I went to work, and I wanted it to last as long throughout the day as I could get it to last. And the only reason that they're sitting on top of the pots is because I was thinking that if I elevated it, it would keep them from kicking the sand and stuff into the food that I put up there. So that was the only reason. So I just got the pots that were on sale or clearance, or I really didn't care what they looked like. I just wanted the cheapest cost pots, because clay pots that large are pretty expensive. So I just went to the store and got whatever they wanted to get rid of at the cheapest price, because it didn't matter. So, but that's what I used those for. And then there's 2 feeders out here. There's one in the middle that they use the most, and I think they use it the most because it doesn't have a guard. These feeders are meant to keep the mice out of the food. So if they learn to step on it, and you can see they can get to the food, and then when they step off, it closes. And it only takes about, oh, I don't know, 10 minutes or so to teach them to do it. You teach one hen how to do it, and they'll teach all the others. You don't need to teach a whole bunch of them. You hear the dogs barking because somebody drove through the property. And I think they like that other feeder better because if you look at this one, it's got kind of a guard around the food, and they prefer to throw the food on the ground. So, yeah, and so same thing with this waterer. It's similar to a liquor drinker that you teach a dog to use, and same thing with the hens. It only takes about 10 minutes to teach them how to use it. I start them when they're a baby, and then they learn how to do everything. So I've got one feeder like that out here. I've got another one on the inside. Now this bench is for me. That's because I wanted somewhere to sit when I hang out with them, because the more you hang out with them, the friendlier they'll stay as they grow into adults. So I made that bench for me. And then this PVC is holding the oyster shell. I found the plans for it on the internet, and we made it ourselves, and I just wrapped it around that pole to hold it up. So it's got, they can grab as much oyster shell as they want, and then it just has a normal sewer screw-on lid on the top. I've got another one of these on the bottom in case I ever needed to dump it all out for some reason. I've never had to, but I did it that way just in case. They do have a mirror to play with. It's pretty funny to watch them notice themselves in the mirror, because they don't understand. They see the chicken, but they don't understand that it's a reflection of themselves, and they keep looking behind the mirror trying to figure out where is this chicken that they're looking at. So it's entertaining for me, but it also keeps them busy. And the reason I've got all this jungle gym stuff in here for them is because hens naturally can be mean if they get bored. So the more you can give them to do and to play with, then the better off they're going to be as a flock, because they won't get bored and start to pick on each other. And another thing I've got down here, you can see back there, I've got a little xylophone thing. They like stuff that makes noise, and they'll peck at it. And they don't really play songs, but it's just another thing to occupy them. So one thing to keep in mind, see here's the bigger waterer that's inside. So another thing to keep in mind is if you have different breeds of chickens that are different sizes, these little steps that I put under the waterers, that's just so the little ones can reach as well as the big ones. That way the big ones don't have to bend down to drink, which might deter them. But the little ones can step up. So that's what that is for. And I want to show you one thing in the grow out pen. As the chickens are aging from babies to adults, I try to give them everything in the grow out pen that they're going to have out in the big pen, so they understand how to use it. So these plant hangers are what I use to hang the feeders and waterers on until they graduate to using the ones with the stepper. And that way I can change the height. I just use kitchen twine. I've got a heat lamp back there just in case. It depends on if I get babies in the fall or babies in the spring. Sometimes at night they need a little bit of heat, and you can see there's a timer hanging up on the wall up there. So that way I can control it to come on just at night. And they've got their little xylophone in here, so they start using it when they're young. They understand what to do with it when they're outside. I need to add a swing in here because some of the newer hens don't understand how to use the swing on the jungle gym. So I need to do that. I'm trying to think anything else. There's roost bars in here. There's oh, I was saying how I teach the babies to drink out of the liquor, the water nipple liquor things. You buy a rabbit bottle and you take the metal piece off, and the same company that sells these water machines will sell one of these pieces here on a twist cap. and you just put that on the bottle instead. And so that's why in these cages you'll see the U-shaped hook and the two eye hooks sticking out. That's where I attach it in the grow out pen. I'll start them on that in the baby pen, the brooder box. And I'll have to give you a different video of that because I don't have the babies out here. The babies are actually in the house because they need so much attention. So I start them learning how to use the watering system when they're a couple weeks old. And then they'll drink that way in the brooder box. And then when they go in their grow out pen, I just bring their bottle out with them. They're still eating out of a regular baby feeder. They won't learn the feeders until they actually get introduced into the flock. And that's another reason that I put the grow out pen out here. You see there's two windows that just have screen. And then on the other side, you've got screen here under the watering system. That's so that as they grow, I leave them in that grow out pen until they get large enough that they're about the same size as the smallest hen that's out here. And then that's when it's time to introduce them. So this way they get to know each other through the windows. They get to learn each other's scent because that's how they know who belongs in their flock and who doesn't. And they can visit through the windows. And you'll see I've got little clamps on the inside. I cut plexiglass to fit inside so that if it's too windy, too cold, while they're out there, I can always put plexiglass in one window or the other to just break the wind. It doesn't go all the way up. It leaves like the top 10 inches open so air can still flow through. And that brings me to another thing about putting your coop together. You need a lot of airflow because of all the ammonia that's in their poop. So besides the walls being open out here, I've got big windows up at the top that never get closed. And I've got the fan that is pointed at one of the windows to push hot air out in the summer, push ammonia out if it rises, stuff like that. And then inside here, I've got one in there as well across from the fan. So you can see the fans up there. So that's what I used for ventilation. So it will, air can flow out. So air can come in the windows of the grow out pen and flow out, especially if the fan is on, it'll flow out. So it's, this is their house, their playhouse. You'll also see up on the wall up there, I've got some cameras that are connected through my Wi-Fi to my phone so I can watch them for wherever I'm at. I used that more when I was working because I would be able to check on them in the middle of the day, especially in the summer when it was 118 out and I was worried if they were okay or not. So I'd be able to use the cameras. The cameras move. I can control it all on my phone. This little ladder really isn't needed. It's from one of the previous hen houses. Actually, I could give you the little history of that because you can still see remnants of the original hen house in here. So the original hen house was this beam across here and that beam to the far wall. That little area was the original hen house that only held 4 chickens. And then I realized that wasn't big enough. I was like, okay, when those 4 stop laying, how do I get 4 more? Because it'll be too crowded. So I doubled it and it went to this set of beams here. So I just doubled it this way. And so that was the first remodel. And then we decided that that wasn't going to work, that we actually needed it to be bigger because if you do the math, hens lay eggs 3 to 5 years. That's about it. But they live 12 to 15 years. So what are you going to do with the hens when they quit laying from like 5 to 15 years, the next 10 years? So you have 2 choices. Either you put them down and you make sure you have dual breed birds so that you can use them for dinner. That's one option. Or the other option is to have enough room that they can just live out their life and you still have room to bring in more babies. So those are the 2 options. So we decided for that one. So that's when, let me come over here and see if I can give you a corner to corner shot. So that's when we decided to like really double it big enough to hold 30 hens. And that's really why it became so large, is because we decided dinner wasn't the option for us. So that is the tour of the hen house. Somebody just laid an egg, so that's the egg song you hear. And so that is the tour of the hen house. You can see I've got a thermometer up there to keep track of the temperature. They've got a little bit of artwork, so why not, since it's their house. And so that's what I've got for you today. If you have any questions about any of this, put it down in the comments. Can you eat them? Yeah, there are certain breeds, well, any chicken can be eaten. The only reason that some breeds are said to be for eating and others not is the amount of meat on the bones. Some breeds are pretty scrawny, even though they might be really good egg layers. As far as meat on the bones, they're pretty scrawny, and it's just not worth the effort. So if you're looking for hens that will lay eggs until they're 3 to 5 and then are able to be food, there are breeds that are called dual purpose, and that's what they mean by dual purpose. They're good at laying eggs and they have enough meat on their bones for food. So it's just a personal choice whether you raise chickens for food or you raise chickens just for eggs. Some people raise chickens not for either one of those. They do it for the bug containment because they will eat all the bugs and all the weeds. So some of them use it for that. There are 16 chickens in here right now, and I've got 4 babies in the house in the brooder box, and not this coming Monday, but the following Monday I've got another 4 babies coming, so they will be put in with the 4 I have now. The 8 babies will grow up together, and they will move out here in the grow out pen together so that they get moved into the flock together, because when you've got 16, you can't really put 1 or 2 babies in with them. They'll pick on them too bad. So this way it'll be 8 moving into 16 together. So that will help them assimilate into the flock in a much healthier way. And you notice that I've got all different breeds, like they all look different. That's another thing you need to think about when you create your flock. You either have to have all the same breed or all different mixed up breeds like this. Because if there's one chicken that looks different than everybody else, they'll gang up on that one chicken because they think she doesn't belong. So you need to go either way. So I decided, I have no more than 3 the same breed. So I decided that everybody is going to be a little different. That way there isn't too much of a gang mentality going on with these crazy hens. So yeah, so the ones that are coming in, the babies I have, are breeds that I don't currently have. So they will fit in just fine. So I've got some that I only have 1, and then I've got others with 2 and others with 3, but no more than 3 of the same kind is what I've got. So any other questions? Yeah, they can be big bullies, Jessica. They are. They are not the nicest animals, especially to each other. You can keep them friendly by handling them a lot, especially if you have kids. Start handling them as soon as you get the babies, and they'll be friendly enough for people. But to each other, I mean, pecking order is real. If somebody steps out of line, they will nail her. I mean, and as long as they don't draw blood, just let them go. It's sibling arguments, just like when you have multiple kids. As long as they aren't actually hurting each other, just let them work it out, because they have to keep the pecking order and their little colony intact the way they want to run it. So it's interesting. They also do some things that might freak you out if you're not used to chickens. They sunbathe, and it'll look like they're dead, and they'll stretch out their legs and one wing, and they'll be on their side, and it'll look like they're dead to the world. They're not. They're just sunbathing if they're doing that laying in the sun. The other thing they might do is take a dirt bath. A dirt bath is how they keep the parasites and stuff out of their feathers. And they'll dig a hole and throw dirt all over them, and you'll wonder what's wrong. Like they'll twist their head all different ways. It'll look like their head's going to twist off. And yeah, they do some crazy things, but it's all to there's always a purpose behind it. So you just have to get used to it, and you'll begin to recognize what these things are. And the first time it'll definitely freak you out. It freaked me out. And one thing I'll show you when I give you a little video of the babies in the brooder. little babies, when they're a week or two old, when they sleep, they fall on their belly and stretch their head way out, and it looks like they're dead. So I mean, like I'm touching them on their little belly to see if I can feel them breathing. I mean, even all these years later, it still freaks me out when they do that. So you just have to get used to the things that they do. So it's but the more you handle them as they're growing up, then the friendlier they're going to be to people. I don't have any that attack or are like mean to people. They do peck at me, but it's usually because they want something. Either their feeder's empty and I didn't notice it, something like that. They're pecking me because they want me to fill it. Other times they'll peck me. I have a few that like to be held. And if I'm not picking them up and they're in the mood to be held, they'll peck me to pick them up. But I don't have any that actually bite, break skin, you know, have caused me to bleed or anything like that. It's just enough of a peck to get your attention. But yeah, so any other questions before I hop off of here? I don't see any comments coming, so I'll take that to mean you guys don't have any questions right now. So if you think of any, just pop them in the comments and I will go ahead and give you an answer back. Oh, I agree. Being chased is scary. I also don't have any roosters. It tends to be the roosters that chase, and that's because they're trying to protect their flock and they don't want you near their girls. So to prevent some of that kind of mischief going on, I just don't have any roosters. Unless you're going to breed and make your own babies, you don't really need a rooster. So I just have a whole house here full of hens. Yeah, so actually that brings something up. How does it work if you don't have a rooster to protect the flock? The hens will appoint somebody in their pecking order to be in charge, to control the flock. She will also be the sentinel, so whenever noises happen, you'll see her jump up high and put off the sound alarms and stuff to protect the rest of the flock. So they will create a sentinel position in the flock if they don't have a rooster to do that for them. So, all right, that's all I've got for today. So I'll let you guys go. If any questions come up, just pop them in the comments like I said, and I'll get back to you then. And I'll do another video in the next few days with the brooder box and the babies. Yeah, that is sand. I have sand on the floor because, for a couple reasons. Straw, hay, pine shavings, any of that stuff, it will work, but it can get moldy. And I didn't want to have to deal with it. So because this was a whole new area of the property that didn't have anything on it before, and I have natural landscape out in the yard anyway, I put sand in here and I don't have to deal with the mold. Any poop that I miss picking up will automatically just degrade properly right in the sand, and you just scoop it similar to a kitty box. So that's like super easy that way. It only takes me about 2 hours, believe it or not, to do the whole entire thing inside and out, to clean the whole thing. So I just do that once a week. So I much prefer the sand. I've tried it both ways. I do use some special hay in my brooder box because it's easier. Because I don't always have babies. That way I can clean it out and wash the whole brooder box and everything. I'll talk to you about that when I show you that. But out here for permanent, it's sand. And you see the little white flecks in the sand. That is their oyster shell that they have flicked out of that white container. And I just leave it on the floor. I don't worry about it when they throw food and oyster shell on the ground out of their containers as much as some other people do. I mean, I worry about the mice coming in, but I don't worry about it because the hens on the lower end of the pecking scale will, the pecking order, they will eat the stuff that's further away from the feeder, because the hens at the top of the pecking order will eat first, and they will limit what the the ones at the bottom can have. So the ones at the bottom know to scout, and they know to go after the stuff that's a little further away. So I don't worry about them throwing their food and oyster shell and treats and stuff out like that. So let's see, Sue's asking, what age did they start laying? Oh, it depends on the breed. Anywhere from about 20 to 30 weeks. So it just depends on the breed, and that you can look up on the internet by breed to see. So that's, I have some that took close to 30 weeks. I think it was my Morans. I think they take longer. And another thing about eggs is each hen only has a certain number of eggs in her that she'll produce in her lifetime. So don't be so quick to put lights on and things like that to keep them laying through the winter. I put lights on, but not to keep them laying, mostly because I want to keep the length of their days and nights just kind of equal. Because hens will only lay as many eggs as their body is going to produce anyway. You're not going to get them to produce more. And in one of the other videos that I took, I talk about giving them tea. That tea it's got berries in it, but the tea is fennel and nettle that I give them, and that's for their reproductive system. I'm not attempting to get them to lay eggs more often. I just want their reproductive system to stay healthy. That's all. So, let's see. Oh, Carrie's talking about feet mites. Yeah, another thing you can do for mites is put some catnip in their feed, because catnip, once it gets into their system, it will keep the mites and lice and those kinds of things away. It changes the way their skin smells or something, so that the little critters don't want any part of it. So it's I think I wrote it, let's see, about a cup for a 50-pound bag of feed, somewhere in that neighborhood, and I just mix it right into their feed. So any other questions before I hop off? I know I keep saying that, but you guys keep coming up with questions. The white tube is holding the oyster shell. Hens will take oyster shell when they need it. They know when their calcium level is a little low, and they'll just take it when they want it. So I just put it in that white tube. I got the directions to make the white tube on the internet. It's just PVC pipe that you just measure and glue together. I don't think I understand your question, Carrie. What do you mean? A cup of fresh cannot, or can you show us what you use? What do you mean? You mean as far as feed goes, and what do I add? There's actually a video on my page where I took video going, I buy my feed, yeah, it's on the video. I buy my feed in bulk through a bulk buying group here, and I took a video of riding out there because the pickup point for me is 45 minutes away. So I took a video of me riding out there, grabbing it, putting it in the car, riding back, and then bringing it into the storage area and mixing the feed. And in that video I talk about what I add and why. So I order the catnip on Amazon. It comes in a bag. You can get it organic. It is chopped, so it's not powder, but it's not big stalks either. So it's chopped, and it's in a silver foil bag, so that stops it from degrading until you use it up. So I add that. I add extra calendula petals, and I add some sea kelp. And there's one more thing. Oh, I add yeast with garlic. Nutritional yeast with garlic. And I don't really want the nutritional yeast. What I want is the garlic. And that's because garlic and catnip both help keep the parasites away from the hens if you can get enough of it in them. My girls will not eat fresh garlic. So because they won't eat it fresh, I use the powdered stuff and just mix it into their feed. So their feed kind of smells like garlic. But that's okay. Nobody cares about their breath. So yeah, so that's what I do for feed. Once a week, I give them a protein treat, which is either mealworms and crickets mixed together or mealworms and little baby shrimps mixed together, one or the other. It depends on what store I go to when I buy it. One store has one, a different store has the other, so it just depends on what's convenient for my errands when I need to get some. So, you want to see the outside, so the outside of the coop is what makes it look like a mansion. And the only reason it looks so large is because the doors are tall enough for the tractor to ride through it, like I was saying before. So, here, let me shut the door because otherwise the wind will blow it, and I broke it doing that once. I don't want to break it again. So, you can see my flagpole. So, I'm trying to see. So, here's the outside of the coop. And there's so you can see it's built into the fence line. There is a door that I can get to from inside the fence. And that I put in, I did it that way because my thought was if I needed to get them all out of the hen house for whatever maintenance reason or whatever, I could put them in the dog pen, which is what that is in my backyard. That's where the dogs run, but there's a dog door. So I did that until a couple of the hens figured out the dog door. I really don't want hens finding their way into my house. So I took that. I don't let them out there anymore. That just wasn't something I really wanted. I know other people do, but not me. So, so that's all I've got for today. Any questions, pop your comments, and I will go ahead and answer them. And I'll see you next time, and I'll show you the babies.